My summary of learning for EC&I 831, December 2013, by Rochelle Rugg. EC&I allowed us to develop our knowledge of social media and open education. One of the first assignments we had to do was create a professional blog that would show us what we learned. I used WordPress to create Ma Vie en Immersion. Blogging was definitely not my forte in this class. I had a few constraints about it. One was finding meaningful ideas that I felt were relevant to the class. So I turned to online journals such as Edudemic and Huffington Post to help me with that. I also struggled with what if what I was sharing was important and who else wanted to read my ramblings? I also had that fear of pushing the publish button because of the fear of having my content out there. And then a lot of times with me being in my new role as librarian, sometimes what I wanted to share wasn't relevant to EC&I 831. So I ended up creating a second blog, one for my library. And this was a way for me to communicate with my library community. And I ended up using EduBlogs this time instead. Another important concept that we studied was social media and how we used it in our class. Alec told us right from the get-go to get on Twitter. Luckily, I had already been using Twitter for about a year and was already following Alec and many other people in my professional learning network. However, for this class, I created a Twitter account for my library to keep my community informed of all the fun things going on. Google Plus was another way we communicated. And what I really liked about Google Plus was how it allowed us to connect, and we could connect immediately to each other. We also were able to share everything we did, everything we saw, everything we experienced, and we put it directly onto our Google Plus. And that allowed us to also have an archive of what each other was learning. On top of that, each week, we had a whole host of professionals in social media and open learning. And our first one was Dr. Richard Swire, who talked to us about community. Just not only our community in our lives and our profession, but our community online and our sense of belonging online. Sue Waters from EduBlogs was wonderful. She taught us everything we needed to know about starting a blog and what to do with a blog. It was probably the most meaningful lesson I had. George Simons spoke to a lot about what higher education is and where it is going. And it was interesting to have that discussion about what it will look like in 10 years. Sylvia Martinez showed us how we can play. And it's how coding and circuits could be fun and educational and not just for the nerds. Alan Levine taught us to tell stories and how the world and the internet is filled with stories just waiting for our imagination. David Wiley taught us about Open Ed and MOOCs and how I'm still learning them. I really enjoyed the tool Degreed. Now, the teachings of Alec were absolutely incredible, as we all knew they were going to be. And he's such an entertainer to listen to, but yet you learn at the same time. And that was what made this class so enjoyable, was the open communication that we had. Now, the first thing he taught us was to be networked. Being on Twitter, having a professional learning network, and making sure that we are connected. He also taught us about digital citizenship and how to be good citizens on the internet, and also what our digital identity was. And lastly, he introduced us to open education. Thank you so much, Alec and Katia, for making this course everything we knew it was going to be and how much fun it was. Here is just some memorable events that happened during the course of this course. And I mean, it was far from a regular grad class.